welcome to the Gaia update for the full moon in Libra that happens Saturday, March 31st, early in the morning, Mountain Standard Time. So this full moon is super, super potent because Libra is a cardinal sign, and we've had all this activity in the cardinal signs, and of course the sun is in Aries across the way, but the other planets and the sun are really making a dramatic speaking some dramatic language here. And so what happens is that on the 29th, the sun makes a square with Saturn. And so we know Saturn is in Capricorn. This full moon happens at 10 degrees Libra. And Saturn will be at 8 degrees, heading to 9 degrees, where it will take its retrograde next month. And so the sun is squaring up with Saturn just before it moves into its retrograde. And that means the next day the moon squares up with Saturn. So basically this full moon, when the moon and the sun, full moon is always when the moon and the sun are opposite each other. So we got the sun in Aries and the moon in Libra, and then in a square with that we've got Saturn. So a T-square full moon with Saturn, with the moon in Libra, sun in Aries. And with the Aries-Libra axis, we're looking at the individual self of Aries being like, I gotta make it my way, I gotta make it happen, gotta stand up for myself. And it's about me. And then Libra is about balance and relationships and harmonizing with other people. And so then we have the Capricorn, Saturn at home in Capricorn, which is about authority and the rules and the laws, the regulation. Now, this is all happening during a Mercury retrograde. Mercury turned retrograde on the 22nd, and it will turn direct on April 15th, just before the Saturn turns retrograde. So this Mercury retrograde is a potent time for assimilating all that's happened behind the scenes in the subconscious of our lives. We've had all planets directed for most of the beginning of this year. And so now with this Mercury retrograde, we are assimilating. It might feel very different than other Mercury retrogrades. There's still this kind of glitchy stuff, especially because Aries wants to move forward, and Mercury retrograde saying, hey, wait a minute, we can't quite go yet. But we're actually can calm down, slow down, and use this creative energy because Mercury is our conceptual reality. So we're kind of adjusting in our conceptual reality to everything that's been going on in these last, we're talking years, or 6 months maybe, since those summer eclipses. And so the cool thing about this too is that Mercury trines the North Node. And so the Mercury, of course, Mercury in Aries retrograde means that it's very close to the sun. So it's close to the sun during this, it's 2 degrees away from the sun during this full moon. So we got Mercury retrograde in Aries, and right there next to the sun, across from the moon, and in a T-square with Saturn. Now, Saturn is also close to Mars. So we've got, it's just like a really power-packed, incredibly, I don't know. I think we're just really heading in these next couple months. There's huge shifts at the middle of April, huge shifts at the middle of May. And, by the time Mercury comes out of its shadow from this retrograde, which happens mid-May, we are going to be really feeling a new chapter starting. And because Uranus, a very slow moving planet, moves into the sign of Taurus out of Aries. So it's important that we get this kind of Mercury retrograde in Aries so that we can slow down and figure out what this Uranus in Aries has been about, which is like a revolution of the self. It's about a disruption in our identity. And because Uranus brings disruption, it's lightning, it's like spark of the outer knowing outside of this realm coming in and kind of illuminating and enlightening our life, and which can sometimes be glorious and sometimes can be incredibly, frightening and disturbing, disrupting. And the disruption that's been occurring has been in our identity. Who do we think we are? And so this Mercury in Aries is kind of helping us adjust to this. And so take advantage of this time to meditate, receive the information you need to receive. Try to slow down and be willing to change directions in your life. Aries wants to just move forward. We got Mars and Capricorn and Saturn there. They want to just move forward. So Mars and Saturn, lots of forward motion, but we need a couple more weeks of this retrograde to get our ducks in a row to know exactly where we want to go. But Mars and Saturn are our most action-oriented planets, okay? And they act in very different ways. But that's why Mars kind of likes Saturn, because there's action, there's things happening. Capricorn's a cardinal sign, but it's cardinal earth sign. So it's like a mountain, and it's a structure, and it's a foundation we have to build in a certain way to make it sustainable. So with Mars and Saturn coming together in a T-square with the moon and the sun and Mercury, we're really having to kind of an opportunity to reevaluate, reorganize our conceptual reality that's going on here. Now, we're feeling really strongly also Jupiter sextile Pluto is happening again, because Jupiter has moved into retrograde. What that means is it's going closer back to in communication with Pluto in a sextile. And the sextile happens for about a week or 10 days in April, but they're only 1 degree apart right now. And so we're just really feeling it, and we felt it all year. And this is kind of like a hallmark 2018 energy. So Jupiter sextiling Pluto is about, sextiles in general are creative solutions. Like, how do we kind of make this work? Well, a sextile is not the next sign, but the next sign over. So it's like your next best friend, because they kind of go in opposites. It's like, feminine, masculine, feminine, masculine. So we've got Jupiter in Scorpio in the underworld. Jupiter wants to bring a light and expand whatever it finds. Guess what? That's the shadow. That's the part of ourselves we don't want to look at. And then, but we've got Pluto in Capricorn, and Capricorn is the structures of our lives, our authority, what we've built up as our structures of our greater reality. So we're trying to figure out how to make these changes, these structural changes in our reality to better fit the truth of who we are. And Jupiter's saying, yeah, well, we better go put some light on that shadow stuff, right? We better clean that out. But with a sextile, it's like creative solutions, like, hey, it's like we're just kind of inching our way through this. We can figure this out, we can kind of jimmy this around a little bit, like be open to things, impossible situations becoming clear. The truth comes out, the adjustment is made, move on. And that's what's available to us right now. So what's speaking to this as well is that we talked about Mercury and the sun being very close, and Mercury, has already crossed over the sun, and now it's going back with this retrograde. And Mercury is going to come up with a beautiful trine with the North Node in Leo. Okay, so the North Node is our future karma. It's like, where are we going? How do we get there? And so it's talking about us reclaiming our inner child and shining our light and our creative expression and our charismatic, dynamic part of ourselves that the world is saying, it's time to shine. So Mercury is trining this North Node, and that's a really beautiful, harmonious energy. So Mercury's retrograde, trying to assimilate to this new world that we're trying to create and build and break down the old and all that. But with a trine with the North Node, and that will happen again when Mercury comes back through this area of the sky in the retrograde. And so this is saying that we, our way forward, we need to reevaluate this Aries energy. We need to reevaluate our permission to be who we really are. And that claiming of the inner child, both Aries and Leo represent this inner child, this part of ourselves that is joy and life and passion. And so it's really getting activated. How do we bring this back into our life? So many people are just, survival, getting through. And this is not the truth of who we are. It's not the truth of our world. But there's a ton of energies working against us, reclaiming this passion. And so that's a lot about what this full moon is about. It's how do we work together to do that? Because Libra is all about interpersonal communication and relationships and making it work for everybody, seeing the other side of the story, finding justice in the world. And so with the moon in Libra, it's about seeing, strengthening that sense of self, and at the same time recognizing and having compassion for the other is a big part of these shifts, is a big part of claiming back a true life of truly living. Now get this, the moon does a trine with the sun, because Mercury and the sun are so close. the sun trines up with the North Node on the 2nd, a couple days after this new moon or full moon. So what we have is Mercury trining the North Node, coming together with the sun, and then the sun trining the North Node, because Mercury is going backwards and the sun's going forwards, supposedly in the view, our view of the world from the Earth. And so it's this full moon is sandwiched. It's a T-square, tension in the cardinal signs. How do we move forward to create new structures in our world and to reflect our new identity as this passion and this spark and this right to really exist in this world and be creative and express ourselves. And so we've got that powerful T-square sandwiched by the Mercury and the sun trining up with the North Node. So this whole T-square is kind of trining the North Node. And it's interesting because it's kind of like making the shape of almost like a key. You know, it feels like a key. It's like, we've got the key, you guys. And now, interesting component there is that next month in April is when Chiron moves into Aries. So it's interesting because Mercury retrograde in Aries is assimilating this last 7 years of Uranus in Aries, and it's preparing us for Chiron in Aries, the wounded healer. And Chiron, the wounded healer, is the symbol of that is the key. So I'm kind of feeling like this is this magical setup, and there's like mysteries in the stars that I'm like, this full moon has mysteries written all over it, this configuration. I mean, throw in that Jupiter sextile Pluto, and what does that do to the key? I don't know, but basically it means it's a combination lock, I guess. And we're like to go this way and that way, and you know, we're trying to pick the lock right now to our future. And to feel like we deserve it, you know, with all that Venus and Mercury conjunction, you know, do we deserve this new world? Can we stand up for ourselves and claim back our passion in our life and our real living and our truth and our permission to exist and our empowerment, come out of victimhood as powerless little humans that are like oppressed by this big false God force that was like the energy of the Piscean age? And so we're here at the gateway. We are here at the precipice and the gateway to a new future. And wow, there's just so many messages. I could talk for hours about it, but I think you get the gist of this. And so I hope you can join me for the live activation. This is going to happen on Thursday, March 29th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And there's instructions on how to sign up for that below. And this is a live activation. What we do is set the tone by talking through this astrology. We're like making a room, and then we go through a guided meditation. And what this does is like help us tune into the energies of this full moon and make the most of what this universe is trying to do. It's lining up right now, you guys. And it's like, what's happening? Are you on the train? Are you off the train? Like get on the track, get on your timeline. Let's make this stuff happen. Let's get our lives to be more of what we want them to be rather than what this world and the man dictates that it is. And so this is the time. And so I look forward to seeing you on that live activation. If you can't make the live call, but you have this intention to join, your questions still get answered, your issues still get addressed, your energy is included in the activation. So it's live in real time, even after the fact on the replay, and the replay is immediately available. So I hope you can join me for that live activation and have a wonderful full moon in Libra. It's time for fresh starts and new beginnings once we get reoriented and kind of it's like Mercury retrograde. We're ready to move forward. Somebody's behind us, pushing us, our guidance, you know, the universe saying it's lining up for you, get ready. And yet we're blindfolded. And this Mercury retrograde, you know, kind of trying to find where to, you know, whack the piñata with the stick is kind of what it feels like right now. So use this Mercury retrograde to your advantage to just reorient yourself, ground out, connect with nature, meditate, get the messages, and be ready to step through the threshold into this next chapter coming in this next couple of months. So I look forward to joining you. Until next time, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.